Hello everyone, my name is Chrissy and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite books of the year, which is Hench by Natalie, Zina, Walschots. This is sci-fi slash speculative-ish fiction, which goes into a world in which even supervillains need people to make copies, to do data entry, to do IT, to drive them places. The people who do these jobs are called henches. Anna is one such hench. She really just needs a job to pay for living, because living is sometimes very expensive. There are different temp agencies which pair people to different supervillains to fill different roles. Anna goes to one in order to find work. Anna ends up getting hired into an office role. Anna, at one point in her job, ends up coming in contact with Hero, and it doesn't end well for her. She gets severely injured by the Hero. During her time of healing, in which she is fired from her office job because, supervillains gotta pack up and leave after a Hero goes and pows them, she starts to develop really big feelings of resentment for the situation and towards the Hero who put her in that situation. While she's healing, with the abysmal healthcare that she has, she starts to collect data on different ways heroes impact the world in not a great way. Really, it's focused on the amount of damage heroes do, including how many life years they take away from people in general. Anna, with the information that she gathers, throws it out into the world, onto the internet, and says, "Here, look at this." She calls it the injury report, and it does attract the attention of heroes in not a great way, and it attracts villains' attentions in a better way. But that is the premise of our story. As stated in the beginning, this is one of my favorite books of the year so far. I just love almost everything about it. Number one, it answers the question, why would anyone want to work for a supervillain? Well, one, people need money, and two, good benefits. In fact, in this work, I would almost compare evil supervillains in this book to corporations and corporate work centers in this world. Really, what I love is that it makes evil just corporate. And sometimes, much like this world, sometimes corporate puts itself out as being for the good of its employees, but then ends up not. For example, Anna ends up working for this guy named Electric Eel at the beginning of this book, and Electric Eel is probably one of my favorite villains because he's hilarious. In a not purposeful way, he is all about vibes and making sure that you tell the truth. In fact, he regularly says things to his employees like, "I don't feel we're communicating." I feel like he's the type of boss who would offer up yoga classes so that his employees don't have as much stress. And so far, all that sounds really good. He is wanting people to have really cool and calm vibes and to have a good work-life balance. But he's still corporate. When Anna gets injured, he's not really looking after the welfare of Anna. He's looking after the welfare of himself and his organization. He packs up ship and leaves, and Anna ends up jobless. And the way that she's let go is so impersonal that it is insulting. And that's not even deep diving into the situation which got Anna injured in the first place. Electric Eel wasn't planting flowers, let's just say that. So when I think of supervillains in this world, I just think of corporations and corporate lifestyles. That even when they say they're trying to do well for you, they're really just trying to push profit. And the henches of this world having the same trials, tribulations, and complaints that we have in this world is just hilarious. For example, one of Anna's friends' name is Greg, and he is constantly getting called for IT questions. So in this book, through the glass, I heard Greg ask, "Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?" Also, getting into disputes with coworkers or people that you're working with are nearby. For example, Anna has to get talked to by Electric Eel for how she handled a situation with another person. So this is starting with Anna speaking. "Is this about Knifefish's personal assistant?" "Yes, Jessica. I feel like we resolved the matter." "She filed a grievance yesterday, Anna." "I understand why she would do that. And you don't feel like that should be addressed?" I consider my words, tilting my chin up. "If she felt the need to file a report, I respect that decision. I do feel like I got my message across to her." "You hid her phone in a spooky pumpkin." Pettiness in the workplace. I love it. Then there's getting into Anna's character development throughout this book, which I think was handled spectacularly. We start with her just wanting a job, any job, because she just needs to live, and she's kind of just taking things day by day. She doesn't really have a lot of ambition. And her going the henchman route certainly does not help her social life at all, because henches are seen as people to be saved sometimes. If she develops a friendship with someone who is more of a civilian type, they may see her as being a hench person and be like, "No, you don't need to live that life," and Anna is just sitting there like, "I just need work, man." In fact, one line I love is, "I'd been emotionally preparing myself to give up my favorite pizza joint if the delivery guy kept being friendly." I feel like that's such a great way to showcase that very concept in Anna. But the building up of resentment in Anna, the need for restorative justice against this freaking superhero who caused her grievous injury that took months to heal from, builds and builds and builds, and turns her into this person that justifies her own means to the end. And in doing so, brings up some very interesting questions, such as, in this world where there are supervillains who are doing a whole bunch of stuff, do we really need heroes who are doing more damage than the supervillains themselves would cost? In our need for some kind of vengeance or restorative justice, at what point are we satisfied with getting it? How much hurt do we have to put for another person because of the hurt done to us? And I do think it lends itself into narration that if the bad guys are the supervillains, are seen as kind of like this corporate enterprise within this book, then are the heroes, are the good guys, put as the systems that are meant to do good but sometimes do harm. Like, say for example, here in this world, the criminal justice system can sometimes do more harm to people than it can good. But much like the heroes, some people would look at the criminal justice system as it is and say, well, but then how can we change it? Because we kind of need it in order to have a type of rule of law within society. And thus people may ask, well, then what would you do about superheroes? Because we kind of need them due to the supervillains. I just love that this book was able to build up a lot of thoughts on these concepts for myself. I fully appreciated how this book balanced the humor and seriousness of it all, and also how it handled relationships. One of the key relationships in this book is between Anna and her friend June, and both of them have very different thought processes on how to handle things, like what happened to Anna. With June, she thinks that Anna is making way too many waves and putting her and others around her in danger. This puts a major strain on their friendship, and that is a theme throughout this entire work. I had to look this up real quick. If Hench was a standalone book, I would be decently satisfied, but there were a lot of questions not necessarily answered, and so I looked it up, and there is going to be a book 2 called Right Hand. If upon hearing this book you're like, you know what, that book reminds me of the TV show The Boys, I don't think you're wrong. I think the main premise of heroes doing damage to such an extent that something has to be done is very apparent in both The Boys and Hench. The thing with The Boys is that it goes unhinged quick. That show puts a lot of things in the air at once, and sometimes in a way that doesn't necessarily bring cohesion to the storyline, where I think Hench actually does a really good job of keeping comprehensive throughout the book, and also leaves out a lot of like the orgies and stuff that was prevalent in The Boys. Which, no shame to The Boys, but admittedly I'm glad that we left out that kind of stuff in Hench. Mainly because I feel like with The Boys and kind of putting in this kind of weird sexual depravity with the heroes, it kind of made them very much not as human. While in Hench, they may be supervillains and they may be doing all this other crazy stuff in their supervillainy. They're still very much humans asking for things like IT help and their computer not working, and Electric Eel asking like people how they're doing, and to be honest with me, because I feel like it's gonna ruin the vibe if you're not. Overall, a really solid read. I cannot wait for the next book to come out. Thank you so much for watching, and as always and forever, may you get lost in a book.